好了，那我们看第3段，在这一节，哈德森教授的这个第3段这一节里边呢，他去谈论了经济依附与低度发展在2次大战后的世界的形成。他认为呢，当今世界的新兴战争是经济战，经济战的一部分是思想战和意识形态战，这正好承接了他刚才第2段所说的内容。就他在第2段里边讲到了西方经济思想的时候，把它直接归结为是政治宣传，特别是西方经济学教科书，尤其是新自由主义经济学的教科书，他认为这就是意识形态。那为什么中国会把学生送到美国学习经济学，而他们管理自己经济的方式与教科书所教的完全相反？每一个成功的经济体都是公私混合经济体，也是最重要的部门要掌握在公众手中。那也就是说，中国现在的大型基础设施这个军重工业体系，还基本上属于这个国有大企业为主来掌握着，那就是服务于全社会发展的、服务于综合性的可持续发展的这些公共部门，仍然还在国有手里。这当然就包括着各种公用事业银行和信贷体系工业工程体系。那金融体系的作用是为了配置资源以保持经济增长。那金融工程的目的不是生产更多的商品和服务，这个和工业的体系相对立的金融工程，它是要抬高资产价格来寻租来实力的。
And in World War I, as we'll be discussing in the next few lectures, the world stopped taking the socialist line of development that was pioneered by Germany and the United States. The United States emerged as a creditor nation. Europe was broke, and the United States insisted in being paid for all of the arms that it had sold to the European allies before they entered the war. Europe went bankrupt, and the United States, to make a long story short, absorbed almost all of the world's gold by the end of World War II. The result is that the United States used its financial wealth to create an entire different economy, an entirely different kind of ethic. It no longer supported socialism. In fact, as soon as the Russian Revolution occurred in 1917, the United States and Britain sent troops over to try to fight to overthrow the Russian government. The whole idea was called pulling up the ladder. We in the United States, England, and Europe are rich by having a strong government. Let's prevent any other country from getting rich the way we did. Let's prevent any other country from having a government strong enough to limit a financial class, because we are going to be the financial class. We're going to be a global financial class, and finance capitalism is a global movement. Now, the result is, where instead of being a protectionist, once America became the industrial producer of the world, insisted on free trade. This is just what England did. In the early 19th century, England had gotten rich through a policy called mercantilism, protecting its own industry, subsidizing its industry, and preventing its colonies from developing any industry in its own. The objective of industrial England was to make its colonies and other countries dependent on it. Likewise, in the United States, it got rich by protective tariffs, by government subsidy of infrastructure. It then said, okay, now we are the leading industrial producer. We want other countries to be dependent on us. So it began to teach a theory that told other countries, don't protect yourself. That's socialist. Don't have the government develop industry. Don't do anything at all. Just follow your comparative advantage. Your advantage is in being poor. Use it in advantage. Use your poverty to make low-priced labor. You can make paper flowers and sew up baseballs and leave everything, all the capital investment to us. And that's what has been taught in textbooks since basically since World War I. And the idea is that America, England, and other industrial countries would export high-profit manufactures to countries that agreed to specialize in agriculture and raw materials production, and low-wage handicrafts. And that was called free trade imperialism. Free trade is a way of making other countries dependent on you if they're naive enough to believe what's in the textbook and they don't try to get rich by having their own government, and if they don't follow what now is called socialism. World War II was ending. In 1944, the United States created the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. And the World Bank told other countries, Latin America, Africa, and Asia, well, we'll make loans for you to develop, but you cannot develop by competing with anything that America produces. You cannot grow your own food. You should grow plantation export crops. Don't have land reform, because land reform people, once you have land reform, you have socialism and the government and you're independent. You want plantations, you want to buy all your food in the United States, and don't create any manufacturers that can compete with this. So the World Bank would make loans for roads to export raw materials, to export food, ports. They wouldn't make loans to develop the domestic economy. And the international, and obviously countries following this very quickly ran into a trade deficit. That was the whole idea. America and the industrial nations want other countries to run a deficit with them. That's how they get rich, by running a surplus with other countries. And countries would have to then begin to borrow money from the International Monetary Fund to finance the deficit. Otherwise, their currency would go down and they get poorer and poorer. So the International Monetary Fund said, okay, we'll lend you the money, but you have to follow certain rules. You have to prevent unionization. You don't let labor unions. You have to lower the price of labor. You have to dismantle government. You have to balance your budget by selling off your electric utilities, your roads, your ports to private investors, mainly American investors, British investors, and European investors. And so all of a sudden, you had what seemed to be an international economy pretending to make the whole world rich, actually making the whole world poor and poor. So adopting free trade and failing to control foreign capital movements actually underdeveloped economies. A new word had to be introduced to the language. You underdevelop an economy by making it dependent instead of actually developing it. And so the theory of how to economic growth became just as warped as it is today, as the United States is deindustrializing. And the ideal American economic diplomacy was to make other countries dependent on the United States farm exports, so that if a country does something the United States didn't want, like China did something that America really didn't like in the 1940s and 50s. It had a revolution under Mao. So what did America do? It said, we'll starve them all. We'll show that the only way China can succeed economically is to get rid of the communists. And so we're going to have an embargo. We're going to tell countries, don't sell any grain to China. Make it starve. And America passed the grain embargo to try to starve China. Canada said, wait a minute, our farmers make money. If we're producing all this grain, if we don't sell it to China and countries that are like it, then all of a sudden our prices will go down and all of our farmers are going to go bankrupt. So they broke the embargo. They sold their grain to China, and that's how China was able to survive under Mao. But what this showed Mao was that the United States wanted to make China as dependent on the United States as possible. Just like today, when President Trump is saying, we're going to have an embargo, information technology, on chips, on high technology to China, we'll try to disrupt its industry. The United States strategy is to be in a position where it can disrupt the economies and the industrial production of China or any other country that doesn't agree to sell off its economy to American investors, to make American banks come in and end up getting all the benefit of higher Chinese housing prices, let Americans buy out your companies, as Trump is insisting that TikTok sell its company to America free, just as if you're going to have to grab it. And then you were going to pay you something for it, but then we're going to tax what you get. It's simply an asset grab. The new kind of warfare in today's world is economic warfare. It's not military warfare, it's economic warfare. And part of the economic warfare is intellectual and ideological warfare. And that's what Chinese are taught when they're sent to the United States to study. I don't understand why China would send its students to the United States to study economics when the way that China is managing its own economy is the opposite of everything that is taught in the textbooks, because, as I said, every successful economy is a mixed public-private economy. And the most important sectors to keep in public hands are public utilities, banking and credit. China does this. In the United States now, there are a lot of bankruptcies of companies. When a company is bankrupt, the banker and the bondholders take over, and they sell to the highest bidder at a fraction of the actual price. Just as when they foreclose on a house, they'll sell the house at an auction at a low price. Now, many Chinese companies also are not able to pay the money that they've borrowed from the Bank of China. But the Bank of China is very different from a private banker in the United States. The Bank of China says, okay, we understand that you can't pay the debt that you're scheduled to pay. What are we going to do? We're not going to shut you down. We're not going to make you fire your workforce. We want to keep you in business because you're our means of production. So we're just going to write down the debt to what you can pay. We're going to provide you with enough credit that you can create your factory, you can buy your raw materials, but we want to, when you can't make a profit and pay the interest and the debt that we've given you, we're not going to shut you down, because otherwise we're going to have mass unemployment like the United States. China runs its financial system to allocate resources to keep its economy growing. And the reality is that in every financialized economy, it's centrally planned. America is more centrally planned than the Soviet Union was. America is the most centrally planned economy in the world, but it's planned by Wall Street. It's planned by the financial sector. It's planned by the bondholders. And the fact is they're awful planners. Their planning is what's bankrupted the country. Their form of planning is what is deindustrializing the United States. China's planning does not bankrupt the country. China's planning, still, it's the Bank of China, it's the government that decides who's going to get the credit to build what factories where, to build houses, to house the Chinese, to build roads, to build the communication system and the infrastructure and the telephone system. But its aim, industrial engineering, not financial engineering. Somehow in the United States, the fact that finance and credit and money is the central planning thing has led the United States to abandon industrial engineering and to do financial engineering, whose objective is not to produce more goods and services. It's simply, as I said, to increase stock prices, to increase housing prices, and all of this is increased by debt. You borrow more money to buy a house, and people will say, I'm getting rich, the house is worth more, but it's getting worth more because you're borrowing more and more money to the bank, and you have to pay more and more interest charges on your mortgage. And while you think you're getting rich, you're actually getting more and more in debt. But strange as it may seem, debt is not included in the economics models. It's not included in the curriculum. Just like the GDP statistics don't include, they count disease as increasing GDP. They count the increase in crime is increasing GDP because you need more gates on the windows, you need more policemen, you need more protection. All that increases GDP. When you get sick, that increases it. Hospital expenses go up, you need more doctors' payments, you need more drugs. The more a drug company can charge for drugs, the more GDP goes up. People can't believe that this is actually how they make the statistics. But the joke used to be in New York and in Germany, you don't want to see how a sausage is made. You may like eating frankfurters and sausages. You don't want to go to the store and see how it's made, because then you're not going to want to eat it anymore. Well, you can say the same thing about GDP statistics. You don't want to see how they're made because you think, wait a minute, that's sort of goofy that they don't know the difference between a cost and overhead, between wealth and overhead. And what they think is wealth is actually the ability to charge the rest of the economy more and more and more. So instead of making the United States more productive, this financialization has deindustrialized it and made it a post-industrial economy. Well, already 50 years ago, 40 years ago, all sorts of books are being written, the post-industrial economy, why it's going to be good for you. Nobody will have to work. We can all live on by saving money and putting it in the stock market and live off the rising value of our houses. Well, how can the price of a house rise unless new buyers don't have to borrow more and more money to buy it? It was a kind of silly kind of reasoning. But again, if you look at the list of the richest men in the United States, Forbes magazine has the richest 500 Americans, the richest 500 Europeans. I think it has a list of the 100 richest Chinese. The way to make money is not by industrialization in these countries. It's really by getting something from the public domain. And novelists understand this more than economists. Balzac, the French novelist, said that behind every family fortune is a great theft. Usually it's forgotten about. People don't really know, how did they get this land that made them so rich? How did the members of Britain's House of Lords get all the money to give them all this real estate? Well, long ago, 800 years ago, their ancestors were warlords. They got in a warlord band, they conquered England, and they gave all the land to themselves on a hereditary basis. That was a theft. In the United States, in the 19th century, the railroad barons essentially bribed politicians to give them land around the railroads. They became the richest people. Almost every country has rich people privatizing something from the public domain, whether it's national forests or water rights or land rights that you seize from the Native Americans. Basically, it's a free lunch. Now, when Milton Friedman came to China, I think 30 or 40 years ago, and tried to tell them, here's how Americans got rich. It really wasn't how Americans got rich, but he told them, he got famous for his slogan, there is no such thing as a free lunch. The reality is, economics is all about how to get a free lunch. You get rich by exploiting somebody, by getting something for nothing. You can take their land, push them off it, and then you can charge them rent for it. That's how the Romans got rich in antiquity. You can get rich by bribing the government to build a road that goes right by land that you've owned, which many Hollywood movies are made about how Southern mayors and governors got rich that way. But you almost always get rich by somehow corrupting government. So government corruption is the way to get rich. The Americans would say, well, there you are. The way for China to get rich is you want to corrupt enough government so you can have as many billionaires as Russia and America has. I hope that's not the way China goes. And they should have seen that this was what Milton Friedman was trying to tell them in the beginning.
所以呢，我们看啊，在他的这个第3段里面呢，他讲了2种，一种呢是要以工业工程为主，那就是配置资源来保持经济增长，来使用金融工具。所以这个里边呢，金融是工具。而在金融工程这个阶段上，它是因为金融为主体，所以它就是抬高资产价格才能够寻租实力。它的目的呢，金融资本它追求流动性获利，那实体经济呢往往是流动性差的，所以它并不是为生产去做服务。这个2个比较是很清楚的，所以它这个又是一个所谓怎么说呢？其实有点像那个奶头战略的那种感觉，社会公众都蜂拥着去搞了金融投机。当你认为自己在变富的时候，实际上你的债务就越来越多，但债务并没有被纳入经济学模型。那进一步看呢，他认为我们现在都遵循 GDP， 他说 GDP 是个很荒谬的统计方式。那你金融交易也是进入 GDP 的呀。这以美国以香港为最，美国是87%的 GDP 来源于金融为中心的服务业，香港是85%。那因此呢，他们都是实体经济衰败，实际社会两极分化也是越来越大的。因此呢，他说呢，金融财富实际上是对经济其他部门收取越来越高的费用，削弱他们的活力。尽管他借用了这个弗里德曼的一句话，叫"天下没有免费的午餐"，但他实际上对弗里德曼的这个自由主义经济学持批判态度的。他说呢，这种经济学恰恰是关于如何获得免费午餐的理论。那希望各位呢，对他这个讨论西方理论的这个矛盾，直接指出西方理论，特别是金融资本问世以来的西方经济学理论的所谓的不断的创新，尤其是拿金融资本理论来创新，以金融资本可以获得独立的利润这样的理论创新，来指导西方经济学理论的这个发展。我想他的这个批评呢是非常直白的，也是非常尖锐的。我们从这个角度，大家应该不论是怎么看，都应该是不过分的。所以我还是希望我们能够懂得这到底是怎么回事，希望大家能够有意识的去理解，有意识的去做比较，才能理解我们到底应该如何看待西方的经济学理论。